Speak through these words and work through our deeds if they are worthy, and when they are not, so often they are not. Speak and work in spite of them. Amen. Amen. So today in the gospel, which I just read so eloquently, in the timeless and dearly loved words of Jesus called the Beatitudes, it seems to me that Jesus is telling us that down is up and red is blue and that left is right. I mean, you heard it. Among the things he says, you're blessed when you're poor. You're blessed when you mourn. You're blessed when you're persecuted. I don't know about you, but the way I look at things, those statements are paradoxical, illogical, maybe even nonsensical. Trust me, in my life, I have felt persecuted at one time or the other. I have felt poor in body or mind or soul, and I have been in mourning. And believe me, blessed was never the word that came to mind during those times. But then again, we're told often that God's ways are very different from the ways that the world shows us. You may remember Paul said, today even, God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. God chose what is low and despised in the world, things that are not, to reduce to nothing things that are. So therefore, I know that there is more to what Jesus is telling us in the Beatitudes than the topsy-turvy, upside-down world he may initially seem to be saying. And so I wondered if reading the Beatitudes in the Message translation of the Bible would help me get my worldly head around God's words. As you can imagine, there are a couple of them in there that I liked, and so you get to hear them. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. You're blessed when you care. At the moment of being full of care of others, you find yourself cared for. You're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and your heart put right. Then you can see God in the outside world. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are. That's when you discover your place in God's family. You're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution. The persecution drives you even deeper into God's kingdom. Not only that, says Jesus, count yourselves blessed every time people put you down or throw you out or speak lies about you to discredit me. What it means is that the truth is too close for comfort, and they are uncomfortable. You can be glad when that happens, for though they don't like it, I do. And all heaven applauds. And know that you are in good company at those times, because my prophets and my witnesses have always gotten into this kind of trouble. Here ends the quote. And so I wonder, maybe with that in mind, as hard as it can be, can you and I, can we just let's promise ourselves to get into the kind of trouble God likes? And let's do it together. Let's include and embrace the ones that the world considers the last and the lost. Let's be a place and a people who love the most those that the world calls the least. Let's love the most those who even the church as a whole won't embrace fully. The place called Canterbury, the Canterbury community, this mission, this oasis. We seek not to be a charity, but a blessing and beloved community. And you and I and all of us are welcome at this table, not because we're pure, but because we're hungry and we say yes to God's invitation. Who else on campus is hungry too? Who on campus doesn't even know that they are welcome and wanted and invited to join God at this table? Bad theology wounds, love heals. Let's love as many as we can, knowing that love is not a feeling and love is not a Hallmark card. Love is vulnerability and love is empathy in a community where all are welcome and wanted and invited. Love is risking suffering to bring joy to others and to find it ourselves. Never should we ever underestimate the healing power of affirmative relationships. We should never underestimate ourselves to bring that healing power to others, no matter how broken we may feel ourselves. I'll let you in on a secret. God's grace flows to you and to us and through us, sending a double and a triple and even an infinite-sized blessing on those who need it most, including us. That sometimes gets us into trouble. And that's another paradox that the culture we live in doesn't always teach us, that people call the church are supposed to actually be troublemakers rather than goody-goodies. So let's you and I and all of us be the Beatitudes the world needs. Let's embrace those who some refuse to touch or even look at. Let's love for God who the world calls unlovable. So let's have the attitude of the Beatitudes. Let's place on the wounded the healing power of affirmative relationships. In the name of God. Amen.